dominance destroys marriages. Dominance is disproportionate control of the marriage and those elements common to the relationship. It means one person is more in control than someone else. God made marriage for us to be equals. And by the way, because some men may think that, men are supposed to be the boss of the marriage. Do you realize in Genesis 2, before the fall of mankind, there's never a reference to whoever the boss was in marriage? It's because God created us to be equals in the marriage relationship. The Bible says that God created Eve to correspond to Adam, to fill in his weaknesses. He didn't make Adam to be above Eve or Eve to be above Adam. We're supposed to be partners in the relationship. You've seen there's a bumper sticker that says, if Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy? Yeah. You seen that? That's because Mama is dominant. If there's a person in the home, their moods and their desires and their opinions control the spirit of the home. It means that they're dominant. Let me give you an analogy here. You see these doll houses where you can remove the roof? Let's just imagine for just a minute we're looking down into a doll house and you remove the roof and you can see down into the house. Here's what a functional family looks like. A functional marriage looks like this. There are 2 big rooms in the house. It really only begins with 2 rooms in the house, and they're both exactly the same size. And this is the husband's room and the wife's room, and the room size corresponds to the influence they have in the relationship. They have exactly the same amount of influence in the relationship. And then when the kids are born, they don't have a room when they get born because they don't have any say-so in the family. But then when kids get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old, you start letting them tell you, what fast food restaurant you're going to eat at, or, maybe vacation or this or that. So kids have a little closet or something like that. And, as they get older, you give them a little bit more room, but as soon as they have any good sized room, you kick them out of the house. You just don't ever let them have a big room. That's the point. But the bigger they get, the more say-so they're going to want to have, and ultimately they just think you're stupid, and that's when they move out and do their own thing. But that's what a functional family looks like. Let me tell you what a dysfunctional family looks like. You take the lid off the house, you look down, there's one great big room. And that's mom's room or dad's room, but there's one great big room. Let me tell you what a real dysfunctional family looks like. The kids have big rooms. And the children control the family. What they want, what they don't want by their opinions or attitudes or whatever, the kids are controlling the family. But this could be mom or dad, but what you see in a dysfunctional family is someone's taking up all the oxygen. Someone is controlling the spirit of the home. In our marriage, this was me. It was my way or the highway. Number one, I was chauvinistic, but the other is I was very, very opinionated. I was a very strong-willed, opinionated person. And so I controlled the spirit of our home just through the strength of my personality and not letting Karen have, because Karen would say something, she would share her opinion, I'd roll my eyes, and I would say really subtle things like, well, that's stupid. How'd you say it? Just stupid. I had one guy that I counseled, he and his wife, and he called her Goofy. That was his name for her. And they had children, and they would sit at the dinner table, and she would share her opinion on something, and he would just roll his eyes and say, you're goofy. And he taught the children to call her Goofy. And so they had tremendous marriage problems. But dominance is a lack of sharing, beginning with me. I'm not going to share my ideas, my opinions. I'm not sharing anything with you. I am controlling the home. Let me say this, marriage is about sharing. That's all marriage is. It's about sharing. Second thing is, dominance is equal between men and women. There are just as many dominant men as there are women. It is not gender-based in that regard. And it's always destructive. Dominance is always destructive. You say, well, if it works, why mess with it? She's dominant and everybody seems to get along okay, or he's dominant, everybody seems to get along. It's always destructive. University of Washington, they did a study and they took 130 newly married couples and they tracked them for 6 years into their marriage. And what they were trying to find out was, what is the element that makes couples succeed in marriage? And they taught them a particular communication method when they first got married to try to see if that particular thing would work. They found out after 6 years, the communication technique they changed didn't work, that they helped them to learn in the beginning didn't work at all, didn't help them at all. Here's what they found at the University of Washington. The issue that creates success in marriage is shared control of the relationship. When they found couples who talked and who interacted as equals. And they got along in that way. Tremendous satisfaction in the marriage. To the degree that there was dominance in the relationship was to the exact same degree that the satisfaction of the marriage lowered. God just simply didn't make us that way. And so it never works. It's always destructive. And so if you're in a marriage where one person's dominant, it's like a teeter-totter. You remember when you were a kid and you were on a teeter-totter? Your worst fear was the other person would jump off? Remember that? And so understand this. There are two elements. Let's just say this is dominance and this is passivity on this side. And you always marry according to your level of emotional health. Did you know that? Karen, I thought I was God and she thought she was nothing. And so, she had no self-esteem when we first got married, very poor self-esteem. I had too high of self-esteem. And this was our relationship. Well, here's what changed our marriage. Karen began to stand up. The person on the other side of the teeter-totter, you say, well, my marriage I'm just a victim in my marriage. Oh, no. When you change, your marriage changes. Trust me, you got a lot of power. Karen was here and I was here, and Karen began to stand up to me. I didn't like that because I didn't think women should stand up to men. I thought that women ought to walk 2 steps behind and, not ask questions very often. But Karen just kind of started walking up to me and looking me in the eye and saying, I don't like you golfing all the time. I want you to be home. And she wasn't ugly about it. A few times she was, but I want you to be home. I want you to be home with the family and the kids. And I'd say, I want to golf. I want to do this or that. She just kept standing up. Well, when she stood up, it rocked my world. Because when you stand up, this person begins to lose the dominance in the family. I don't want you talking to me that way. I don't want you acting that way. No, that's not right. No, I've got something to say too. No, my opinions are special too. So that's one way that it changes, is this person has to stand up. And let me say this, for some passive people, you're emotionally lazy. You just don't want to take a chance at being wrong, and you don't want to work at inputting into the relationship. Sometimes it's because of emotional damage or a very dominant person over here, but sometimes it's just emotional laziness. This person here, the great thing about dominant people is they're so strong-willed that they can just decide to do basically anything they want. And so for this person here, you have to sit down. This is what I did. Karen began to stand up, and then God began to change my heart, and I woke up one day and I realized the way I'm treating her is wrong. We had no intimacy. We had a terrible marriage. It never works. And as the dominant party in the marriage, I kept trying to force her to do what I wanted her to do and thinking if she'd just do it, everything would be okay. The more I got my way, the worse our marriage was. But when I began to respect Karen as an equal and we began to talk about issues, our marriage began to work.
Thank you for joining us. Partner with Marriage Today and receive the Marriage on the Rock series on CD or DVD. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Marriage Today's latest book, Happy, Happy Love, will supercharge your marriage with practical tips, wisdom, and inspiration for every stage of marriage. Visit happylovebook.com. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.